What happens when a young boy in a drought-stricken village refuses to give up, even when his family can't afford school, and his people are starving? Let's find out. The movie starts in a small Malawian village called Kungu, where farmers are busy harvesting corn. Children play nearby in the fields. Suddenly, one of the farmers, John, clutches his chest in pain and collapses. The scene then moves to John's funeral, where a priest says John will be remembered for his good deeds and the help he gave to others. Among the mourners are John's brother Trywell and John's son Jeremiah. Trywell lives with his wife Agnes and their 3 children in a small house. The family depends entirely on farming for their income. His son William is a bright student who loves working with electronic devices. He often repairs old radios and other gadgets to earn a little money. Trywell's daughter Annie dreams of going to university, but the family's financial situation makes that difficult. Their daily lives revolve around the success of their crops and the hope for good weather. One morning, Agnes asks Trywell to put William's new school uniform on his bed after his bath. When William sees it, he gets excited and runs around happily. Trywell tells him to be a good boy at school and to study hard. William then leaves for school with his friend Gilbert. Meanwhile, Agnes and Annie visit the local mill to grind maize. On the way back, Agnes encourages Annie to study hard so she can eventually get a job and help support the family. As they walk home, a well-dressed man on a bicycle passes by. Annie smiles at him. Later, we learn that the man is Mike Kachigunda, a teacher at William's school. At school, the principal gathers all the students and announces that anyone who hasn't paid their school fees won't be allowed to use the library. After classes, William delivers a letter from his sister Annie to Mr. Kachigunda. The letter asks the teacher to help her with her higher studies. Kachigunda blushes and walks away, reminding William to pay his school fees. That night, William tries to study for an upcoming test, but there's no electricity, so he eventually gives up and goes to sleep. The next day at school, he tells Gilbert that they could score better if they had a way to study at night. After school, they go to a nearby junkyard to look for something useful that might help them with that problem. Later, Gilbert takes William to his house where his father, Wimby, the village chief, is having a meeting with representatives from a wood-selling company. The company wants the villagers to sell their trees, but Wimby and Trywell refuse, saying it's not a good idea. Most of the villagers agree with them. Suddenly, Jeremiah stands up and makes a deal with the company to sell his trees anyway. Trywell tries to stop him, and later visits Jeremiah at home, advising him not to go through with it and to stop gambling. Jeremiah, however, doesn't listen. He says everyone in the village is taking risks anyway, and he just wants to make money and leave. In another scene, William and Gilbert are listening to a football match on the radio at a friend's house. The radio suddenly stops working, and everyone looks to William to fix it. He runs home, takes the batteries from his father's radio, and uses them to get the football commentary back on air, impressing his friends. That night, on their way home, William and Gilbert spot Annie kissing Mr. Kachigunda. The next day, while searching for parts in the junkyard, Gilbert jokes that William should take revenge on Kachigunda by damaging his bicycle so he can't meet Annie again. William agrees, but changes his mind when he notices the flashlight attached to the bicycle. He becomes fascinated when he sees the light turn on as the pedal moves and starts wondering how it works. Meanwhile, the rains start falling heavily, raising fears of floods in the village. To make things worse, William gets suspended from school because his father still hasn't paid the fees. Hoping for some help, Trywell takes William to the nearby market to meet an old friend, Daniel, who has connections with government officials. But Daniel tells them to prepare for a drought and famine that might soon hit the village instead of offering help. Even after his suspension, William sneaks back into the school library after classes. He finds Mr. Kachigunda and asks him how his bicycle light works. The teacher explains that it's powered by a dynamo that converts the motion from the pedals into electricity. Curious, William asks how to build one, but Kachigunda doesn't know much about it. He tells William to read about it in the library. William tells him he isn't allowed in the library because his fees aren't paid, and also mentions that he knows about his sister's secret relationship with him. Nervously, Kachigunda agrees to help. He brings William to the library and tells the librarian that they are working on a school project together. This way, William can finally read books freely and start learning about how electricity works. In the next scene, a special event is held in the village to welcome the president of the country. The villagers cheer and celebrate as he arrives. During the ceremony, Chief Wimbe steps forward and respectfully mentions the problems the villagers are facing, asking the president to help. However, this doesn't go well. The president's security guards drag Wimbe off the stage and beat him for speaking out. Days pass, and the harvest season finally arrives, but things go badly. The crops failed due to poor weather, and there isn't enough food to feed everyone. Trywell and his family realize their situation is serious and that they'll have to depend on their small savings to survive. To make things worse, the government raises food prices, which makes the villagers even more desperate. Trywell and several others join a protest against the government's unfair actions. While all this is happening, William keeps sneaking back into school to learn more about wind and electricity from the library books. One day, the principal catches him in class without permission and sends him away again. Not long after, 2 government trucks arrive in the village carrying food supplies. Agnes quickly gives William all the money she has and asks him to buy as much grain as possible before it runs out. While Trywell is busy protesting, William rushes to the warehouse where food is being distributed. It's chaotic. A huge crowd has gathered outside, shouting and pushing to get food. Somehow, William manages to squeeze through a narrow opening and get inside. He buys a small amount of grain and then escapes through the same gap before anyone can rob him. When he returns home, Agnes is relieved to see him, and the family gathers around to see how much he managed to get. Trywell, realizing how little food they have, tells everyone they'll have to eat only once a day until the situation improves. Agnes gets upset and walks out in frustration. Soon after, the drought gets worse, drying up the land and making farming nearly impossible. Still, Trywell refuses to give up and continues working in the fields every day. Seeing his family and neighbors suffering from hunger, William becomes determined to help. One night, he visits his sister Annie and asks her to talk to her boyfriend, Mr. Kachigunda, about giving him the dynamo from his bicycle. William explains that he knows about their secret relationship but promises not to tell anyone. He says that with the dynamo, he can try to build a wind turbine that could pump water from underground and save their crops. The next day, when William returns home after gathering some firewood, he sees his parents standing outside, looking worried. Agnes is holding a letter from Annie, who has run away with Kachigunda. When William goes into Annie's room, he finds the dynamo sitting on her table. She's left it behind for him. Later, the family visits the school to look for Kachigunda, but the principal tells them he doesn't know where the teacher went. He also apologizes for what happened. William then takes the opportunity to ask the principal for permission to use the library again. This time, the principal agrees after seeing William's determination. With access to books again, William studies everything he can about generating electricity and wind power. He shares his ideas with Gilbert and some other friends, and they decide to help him. Together, they start experimenting and manage to build a small windmill that can power a radio. The success gives them confidence, and William decides to take things further. He wants to build a full-sized windmill to run a water pump for irrigation. The group starts collecting parts from the junkyard, using whatever they can find: old pipes, scrap metal, wires, and bike parts. When William asks his father for his bicycle to use in the project, Trywell gets angry. He thinks William is wasting time on impossible ideas instead of helping in the fields. He scolds him and tells him to start working on the farm from the next day. William obeys and works beside his father in the hot, dry field, but deep down he knows their effort won't pay off without water. Later, when he visits his friends again, he finds them packing up to leave the village because of the famine. He convinces them to stay, saying they can still fix things together. They agree, and William asks them to help him talk to his father one more time about the bicycle. The next day, the group goes to Trywell's house and politely asks him to let William use the bike. Trywell, still frustrated, gets angry again and chases them away. Later that evening, Agnes talks to her husband and tells him to trust their son. She reminds him that they've already lost so much: their food, their daughter, and nearly all their hope, and that she doesn't want to lose William's spirit too. This conversation softens Trywell. The next morning, he rides his bicycle to find William and apologizes for being harsh. He admits he hasn't been able to provide for the family the way he wanted and tells William to take the bicycle for his project. Together, father and son visit a local repair shop and take apart the bike to use its parts for the windmill. With the help of his father, friends, and a few villagers, William begins building the large windmill. It's hard work, but everyone pitches in, motivated by the small boy's vision. After days of effort, they finally finish building the tower and attach the blades. When the wind picks up, the blades slowly start spinning. William tells everyone to wait patiently while the battery charges. Moments later, the pump starts running and water begins to flow. The villagers cheer and celebrate, overjoyed to see water finally reaching their fields again. For the first time in months, they have hope. The scene then jumps ahead by a week. New crops are sprouting, and the village is full of life once more. People are smiling, working, and returning to their normal routines. William sits outside his house, looking proudly at the windmill he built. He tells his parents that the principal has invited him to meet with representatives from a national student organization. There's a chance he might get a scholarship to study at a well-known university in the city. Trywell beams with pride and tells his son to keep learning and use his knowledge wisely. The movie ends with William climbing up the windmill tower. From the top, he looks out over his green village, a place that was once dry and hopeless, now alive again thanks to his determination and creativity.